like the artistry is so cool in this
Yeah,
video.
it's gorgeous, and
Hmm.
again, it's like, are we supposed to be afraid of hell? It looks so good.
It looks like it slaps. Yeah, right. Okay, yeah, so we're here talking about this is Philosophers React to Lil Nas X's newest music video, Montero or Call Me By Your Name. I'm Vanessa Wills, and I'm joined here by Sukaina Hirji. And yeah, so actually I'll let you introduce yourself first.
Yeah, sure. So I'm Sukaina. I'm a professor of philosophy at the University of Pennsylvania. And my work, some of my work is in ancient Greek philosophy on Aristotle and Plato. So I'm very excited about the
Yay.
references to classical Greece. And then I also work in kind of contemporary moral and feminist philosophy.
Yeah, and I'm a philosophy professor at George Washington University, and I work in moral, social, and political philosophy and philosophy of race and 19th century German philosophy, mainly Marx. And yeah, I'm super excited. All right, here we go.
In life, we hide the parts of ourselves we don't want the world to see. We lock them away. We tell them no. We banish them. But here, we don't. Welcome to Montero.
Okay, I want to pause it right there.
Yes.
Because there's so much just like in that beginning,
Yeah.
right? Like in life, we hide the parts of ourselves that we are ashamed of, but here we don't. Like, welcome to Montero. But then there's the fact that Montero is just like his own interior inner life as well.
Really.
All right, so we've got our little snake going. Let's get back into it.
And the colors are so gorgeous.
Yes, yeah, they're so
I
saturated.
called it bad just today. You hit me with a call to your place. Ain't been out in a while anyway. Was hoping I could catch you throwing smiles in my face. Romantic talking, you don't even have to try. You're cute enough to fuck with me tonight.
I love the look on that tree just now.
Yeah.
This sort of
I love Lil Nas X playing every character in this video. Which again
Yeah.
goes back to this idea. This is like all sort of his inner world.
Exactly. Yeah. Yeah, the video is co-directed. I forget the person's first name. Their last name is Muino, I think. I saw some other of their videos. She had directed a video by Cardi B that just came out a month ago called Up.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, and has done like a bunch of other work. And this color palette seems to be like a signature for her. Like these
Cool.
saturated, candy coated pastels.
Yeah.
It's cool.
And
Yeah.
it's funny, it's like in a way it feels really modern, but there's also this all this kind of like glam, camp, like 80s
Yes.
sort of aesthetic.
Yeah. It also reminds me of Peter Gabriel videos from the
Yeah,
90s.
totally.
Yeah. With the
Yeah, it's funny, like
CGI.
just like aesthetically how much it's drawing from like different eras.
Absolutely. Yeah. All right.
Looking at the table, all I see is reading why you want. Call me when you need. Call me out by your name. I'll be on the.
I think like this is also one of the places where we all like at this point, if we didn't figure out already that this is going to be a different type of video,
Yeah.
we know it now because is there another like mainstream hip hop video where there's a gay male kiss,
Not that I can think of.
right?
It's also like the sweetness of the kiss, like it's
Mhm.
so chaste. It's like a
Mhm.
peck on the lips.
Yeah. Yeah, it kind of like I think that's exactly the word. It is. It's very chaste, which is strange because like we know what's gonna come, you know.
And it's
And
like
also,
but I think that's part of it is there's this like
yeah,
juxtaposition between how shocking it is to see in a
yes,
hip hop video, but then also just like what we're actually looking at is just like the most chaste, like innocent
yeah,
kiss, like a first kiss.
yeah, yeah, yeah. And like the acting, you know, like we have on the one side this wide-eyed like ingenue, you
Yeah.
know, like, and then
Puritans, yeah.
and then the opposite of that, you know.
Yeah.
And that's one of the things I love about this video too, is like we have this sense that, you know, Lil Nas X is both the tempted, but he's also the tempter and the temptation, like
Yeah.
all at the same time.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, and I mean, yeah, it's like it feels like this is like often part of the queer experience is like experiencing both
Yeah,
sides of that, and that's there's this kind of like
yeah,
induction process, and then
yeah,
you know,
yeah. All right, shall we?
Way like,
Things get a little less paced.
uh,
So, this is why we need
I
philosophers
know.
react.
When the first time I saw this video, I saw this scene and like screamed because I could tell that it was
Yeah,
ancient Greek, even though I couldn't read it. And then obviously I had to rewind and actually read it. And so
yeah.
the quote says something like, when they were divided in two, then each searched for the other half. And
Mm,
so we can talk more about this, but yeah, it's this like
yeah,
very famous line from the Symposium, from Plato's Symposium, this speech
yeah.
by Aristophanes referencing this kind of ancient myth about erotic love. And yeah, it's so wonderful
It's
to see it quoted in this
amazing.
context.
Yeah, and we get this like you know, we're getting this like sort of melange of
Yeah,
mythology, right? You know,
yeah,
because we have this Garden of Eden, and then we have you know this bit from the Symposium, and
yeah, and
you know,
it's
yeah,
yeah, and I think that's so right. It's like, yeah, we get this sort of like very Christian imagery, but then we get this like
hmm,
pre-Christian,
yeah,
very, this is like a mythic story with Zeus and
yeah,
Apollo and these other gods. And yeah, I think that the way that he's pulling, we were talking about the kind of way that he's pulling aesthetically from all these different eras. And
yes,
yeah, in terms of the kind of imagery and symbolism, again, he's pulling from just so much.
yeah, it's amazing. I love it. All right, and this also, and oh, and the other thing that I want to mention at this point is the the choice to combine hip hop here with flamenco
Yeah.
because there's so much going on musically.
Right.
Like the video is so amazing, but musically, and you know, and I did this like sort of short but deep dive like into the history of flamenco and so on, and
Cool.
it's amazing because like flamenco like has this history as the music of oppressed people, you know, kind of
Yeah. That's
responding to
cool.
their
Right.
conditions and
Right.
being marginalized, and
Right.
it's this music of you know of suffering and passion, and it's just so perfect, you know, that that's what he's using as his musical language here.
Yeah, I love that, and it's so funny, like, I think it gets to this kind of broader theme for me, like, so much of this music video and the song is about him refusing to feel shame in any
Yes,
way, and refusing to kind of,
yeah,
like, follow the rules or align with certain kinds of norms, and I feel like that's so true about the ways that he plays with genre, like, he does
yeah,
not care what
right,
hip hop is supposed to be, and it was true of, Old Town Road too, but yeah, in this one, just
mhm,
to see, like, aesthetically playing with genre, musically playing with genre, like, just it does not it does not feel
right.
constrained by any expectations.
Right. Yeah. Just, yeah, not respecting any of those like lines that are supposed to separate
Yeah.
things. Yeah. Cool. And then this epicness. I'm just
So good.
we can get a little further in, but I was like, oh, like he is just giving this like denim realness, like with the ringlets and just fabulous and beautiful.
Marie Antoinette hair.
Yes, amazing.
I wanna sell what you're buying. I wanna feel on your
More
ass in
epicness.
Hawaii. I want that jet lag from fucking and flying. Shoot a shot in your mouth while I'm riding. I mean,
That's one of my favorite places musically in the song. That chord is like
Yeah.
incredible, you know, the harmonies. And then yeah, we get this like these judges, you know.
Yeah, all played by Lil Nas.
all played by Lil Nas, you know, and they're just like they're judging. This one's like a little bored, like this one in the middle. I,
I wanna fuck the ones I envy. I envy. Cocaine.
as has been noted, that's a butt plug that kills him.
Oh,
Yeah, yeah, that's
beautiful.
actually. Let's see if I can.
I wanna fuck the ones I envy. I envy.
Yeah, so you can see that. Which is just like hysterical, right? And it really gets us into the humor of the video.
Totally. And it's like, again, this juxtaposition of like the kind of reception, this like fury and outrage compared with like the video itself, which is so sweet and wholesome and like romantic and like silly.
Yes, exactly. It's just amazing. There's also like with him being in chains, like there's I mean, chains are always so rich with symbolism, right? You know, and so this is a black man in chains. You know,
Yeah.
right away, you know, it brings up imagery of enslavement. You know, but also like it brings up imagery of BDSM, right? And you know, and he has the
Yeah.
collar
Yeah.
with LNX on there. You know, and I think like that's so much of the like kind of imagery of the whole video of like y'all have me in these chains, but I'm going to reinterpret them and deal with them in a way that you didn't expect me to. It's like the tweet that he posted, you know, that where he said, you know, y'all are always telling us to go to hell.
Yeah,
Well, you
totally.
know,
What do you want from us?
yeah. Like I thought, wait a second.
I'm exactly where you wanted me to be.
Yeah.
Cocaine and drinking with your friends. You live in the dark, boy. I cannot pretend. Call me when you want. Call me when you need. Call me in the morning. I'll be on the way. Call me when you want. Call me when you need. Call me out by your name. I'll be on.
And I love that he like that pole shows up and he grabs it, you know, and goes down and owns his journey downward.
Yeah, no, and he's loving being on that pole.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, he's very comfortable with his place on that pole.
Mhm. And then there's this transition, like he's gone from seduced to seducer now, you know, and
Yeah, and like he's kind of empowered. He's no longer sort of like passively experiencing something. He's really kind of like owning his identity and his journey and his choices.
Yeah. It would be amazing. Like there could be, I hope somebody does a hairdresser's react to this video because there's such a story just being told by his hair.
Right.
It's amazing. Yeah.
On the way, like, call me by your name. Tell me you love me in private. Call me by your name. Drop everything. Don't need your name. 'Cause I don't understand.
That Latin says they judge what they don't understand.
Oh, I didn't see it.
Yeah. Let me see if I can catch it this time. But yeah, and I also love that, because I hadn't noticed that before watching it with you now, but yeah, it's only after he takes that journey down that he's now that he's breaking the fourth wall. And now he's pointing at the viewer. He's looking directly. You know, he's holding your gaze.
Right.
You know, which is he's returning the gaze.
Right.
You know, it's really there's just like
it's so interesting too because like in the first half of the video, he's kind of like responding to other people, and he's being judged internally by himself, by his kind of inner critics, and now he's sort of like daring the audience to like judge or to engage or to participate.
Yeah. It reminds me of like, you know, we discussed that article in the Times where that talks about, you know, him sort of like laying a trap of sorts.
Yeah.
And it's that, you know, it makes me think about that moment when he, you know, starts pointing at the viewer and looking directly at the viewer, you know, because some of this is for his fans, it's for himself, it's for young people, and some of it is for the haters.
Oh, totally. And I think it's partly, it's like inviting a certain kind of response that he's ready. I mean, he's absolutely ready for the critics who are going to come for him. And I think it again goes back to this idea of him just refusing to feel any shame. And in fact, like inviting criticism because he wants the opportunity to
Yeah.
respond and to kind of like respond on behalf of other people.
Yeah.
And just, yeah, that feeling like he doesn't have to apologize for anything.
Yes, just like the full confidence. Like again, his social media presence is like
Incredible.
bow down, like amazing.
Totally. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, and he because I guess like people were whispering like, oh well, he's an industry plant here to destroy, you know, the community or whatever with homosexuality. And he tweeted, he was like, and if I am an industry plant, he's like, the videos still go hard. You know, the song is still amazing. It's like y'all ain't gonna tell me different. And I think that like that's like what I see in that moment when he's pointing at the viewer. It's like, you know that I am taking you on a journey. You know that you're loving this. You know that I look good as hell. Like,
Right.
you know, and you're not going to tell me different. You know?
And
Like,
it's just gonna be something that I tweet about, and it'll get even more views. Like you're gonna make me be conversation for a week. If you
exactly.
come and try and criticize me.
Yeah. So yeah, I'm gonna try to pause on that. So yeah, dominant quod non intelligent. Yeah. So yeah, again, like, and then just like the imagery of hell. Like this is such an like just like the artistry is so cool in this
Yeah,
video.
it's gorgeous. And
Mhm.
again, it's like, are we supposed to be afraid of hell? It looks so good.
It looks like it slaps. Yeah, right. Like that looks like a party that I would.
Totally.
Let me
How do
hurry
we
up and
go there? Wonderful.
Yes, yeah.
Fuck it, let's try.
So, what do we make of Satan's impassive response?
Yeah. I mean, he doesn't seem mad about it.
He's not, yeah, right. He's not gonna push him onto the ground.
Yeah, but Lil Nas X is definitely in control. This is like a power bottom.
Yes, yeah. He's like using his sensuality, he's using his beauty, you know, he's using his athleticism, his body, you know, but yeah, I just find myself like there's so many parts of this video where when I think about it, you know, I'm like, oh, maybe it's this, it's this, it's this. But with Satan's just like blank stare, that I find it really mysterious. You know, like why is he? I mean, is it like? I guess like in a way, it's like Satan is trying to show that he's in control by not seeming aroused.
I was wondering that too. Yeah, because I mean, it really it this whole thing is like a power play, and it's a power play by the person who you might think is sort of like the less powerful person in this scenario. But what makes Lil Nas powerful is how much he's owning his sexuality and his attractiveness and his kind of like embodiment. Yeah,
it's wild. Yeah. No. And then, all right. So here we get to the pinnacle of. Right, and now he has taken the crown. You know, and he has these beautiful, gorgeous wings. What I love is also like how seamlessly Lil Nas X's own body art kind of like blends into
like kind of like flames on his body.
Yeah, and then that's it. There we have it. That's the that's
and I love the look on his face at the end. Like it's there's something almost kind of sweet about the kind of power that he's taking.
Yes. Yeah. Oof, excited. I think that we both actually use this video with students.
Totally.
Yeah. Yeah. I'm actually curious, like, how did that go for in your the classes?
Yeah, so I haven't used it because I'm not teaching
Okay, yeah.
ancient Greek philosophy, so I'm gonna do it
Okay,
in the
yeah.
fall. And yeah, I mean, I was thinking of using it when I teach the symposium. I really want to teach
Yeah.
it next to Audre Lorde. So her uses of the erotic, I think it's like this gorgeous essay that is very much
Yeah.
about kind of the eros that Plato was investigating in the symposium. And I think this would be such a fun, like, cool thing
Yes.
to throw in there as just like looking at the ways in which some of these concepts get taken up uh by contemporary thinkers, by contemporary pop artists, and just like showing, I think, some of the like relevance and I think like the power of some of these texts that have
Yeah.
traditionally have been used in other ways.
Yeah. Yeah, I showed it this week in my philosophy of race and gender class because for obvious reasons.
Yes.
And we had such a great conversation about it. And what one thing that really struck me was again like this this idea that um, there's been all of this outcry against Lil Nas X putting out music that is supposedly not appropriate for
Yeah.
young people. And it's, when we think especially about the letter that he wrote to introduce the music video, where he says that this video is for his 14-year-old self. Like, it is a video that he specifically designed for young people who are suffering, like for him who was alone and felt judged and had nowhere to turn. And I just think it's so ironic that then there's this backlash
Right,
of apparently the only people who care about kids are homophobes.
right, right. Yeah, so just like to hear him describe the pain that he experienced as a child, and then even to just like visually watch the kind of like internal conflict and pain and shame that he had to
Mhm.
navigate in his own life. Uh, and then yeah, to have the reaction be like, "How dare you do this to the children?"
Right.
Or like to be like a gift to people that kind of had shouldn't have to have struggled through the kind of things that he had to struggle through. Yeah, it's I don't know. Watching him sort of like own those criticisms has been a real
Is
pleasure.
amazing. Yeah. Yeah. So we had chatted a little bit about the because like this gave me major Hedwig vibes.
Yeah,
So
totally.
major Hedwig vibes. So I actually am not sure like how well known that musical is these days
Right.
anymore. Although it did have a revival on Broadway about 5 years ago. Um, but there's this song, "The Origin of Love,"
Yeah.
which is based on Plato's Symposium,
Yeah.
um, and so to see Lil Nas X refer to that same text, I was like, oh, like this is so amazing that we have this kind of harkening back to that text in a popular music vernacular, because of course in Hedwig and the Angry Inch, the origin of love is a rock song,
Right.
here we have
Right.
a hip hop song, yeah.
Yeah, and I mean, I think just the reference that speech is so wonderful in both of these contexts because I mean, we
Mhm,
were talking a little bit about this, but like it's the
mhm,
speech is about erotic love and the speech is like the background of the speech is like there's this kind of like mythical past where
mhm.
we had these three genders like male and female and this kind of like androgynous gender but we were formed in these ways that were too powerful and Zeus got
Yeah,
worried so he split everyone in half and then there's kind of like some more things that happen in the story but ultimately the idea is that erotic love is this kind of like search for our other half so love
mhm,
erotic love is this kind of search for wholeness and I think one of the
mhm.
things that's really like has remained really powerful about that story is the connection between kind of like sexual desire and love. Like that's like
Yeah,
captured by this concept of erotic love. And I think like that's really wonderful, especially in sort of like in the ways it's been taken up by the queer community, because I think often like gay sex is seen as this thing that's sort of like unconnected from love, like it's
mhm.
purely lustful, or gay love is seen as this thing that's sort of just like heterosexual love. And I think like
Yeah,
it's kind of like wonderful way of weaving these things together. You see the video too, you know, there's something so romantic about the song, and then the video is like very sexy. There's
Yeah.
no sort of sense that like this is purely about lust or purely about romantic love.
Right.
It's exploring the combination.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's. I mean, I was saying this before, but it's just for me as somebody who works in this field and who's really concerned, I think, with some of the ways in which the canon has reinforced certain ideologies and certain kinds of hierarchies or power structures. I think to see people taking up texts in the canon in this way, like taking ownership of these texts and finding their identities expressed and better understood in these texts, like to me, that's just so is like powerful. It's inspiring. It makes me sort of better appreciate the value of the text and like the parts that we want to preserve, and it kind of gives like models for how we can begin to engage in these texts. And I think more kind of like open and accessible ways. So yeah, I absolutely loved all of it.
Yeah, it was. Yeah, I'm so happy to have this conversation with you because I think that's something that just really, really needs to be unpacked to understand, what's happening here. And I think, as you were speaking, like another thing that occurred to me was that by um, rooting himself in this ancient Greek text and with the use of Latin text as well, and with the kind of reclaiming and remixing of the myth of this of the Garden of Eden. Like he's also pushing back against this idea that queerness is new, which
Totally.
is such a huge part of homophobic and transphobic narratives these days, that this is some new thing that marginalized
Threat.
people are
Yeah.
trying to. Yeah, you're trying. It's always been Adam and Eve, not Adam and Steve, or like that kind of thing. And I imagine that for in Hedwig as well, right? This idea that like no, like there's this long lineage, and even though um we our kind of contemporary concept, right, and the way that we express ourselves about the ways that we relate to one another romantically and sexually and erotically and so on, those may be new, right? There's all kinds of identities and words and namings that are new, that are innovative, but the way of relating, right,
Yeah.
the basic kind of facts of how human beings relate to one another and live within their own truths,
Yeah.
that is like very similar across
Yeah. And
time.
I think, yeah, you're so right. I mean, part of what's going on is he's kind of interrogating the way these texts have been co-opted, right? So like
Yes.
he's a black man interrogating the ways in which the classic Greek texts have been synonymous with a kind of whiteness or construction of whiteness.
Yes.
And yeah,
Oh,
he's a
yes.
gay man interrogating the ways in which these texts, like the language that we have around like finding your soulmate, finding your other half, like that's coming out of Aristophanes' speech. But the thing we forget is that it's meant to be about gay love, and not just gay male love, but also gay female love, which is like really kind of radical for the time.
Yeah.
And to see him just like remind us of what the
Yeah.
original text says and of how that's meant to be this, I mean, pre-Christian sort of like celebration of love in all its forms and like across all kinds of genders.
Yeah. So something that I feel is also really interesting to think about here is what is being said about moral judgment.
Yeah.
Like there's clearly like there's something to be said about morality and so on, but also just like the practice of judgment.
Right.
We have
Oh,
these.
interesting. Yeah.
Yeah, because like we have these scenes where there's this kind of tribunal that's gathered, and then there are what seem to be sort of like other slaves around, um, and they're all just like they're stoning him, they're judging him, they're tutting,
Yeah.
um, and we get this sense that he's both rejecting their morality,
Yeah.
right? But there's also something specific about the way that he's rejecting the way that they go around applying that morality and wishing ill on people, on the basis of that
Right.
morality.
Yeah, I mean, there's this kind of like interesting, almost like revaluation, like
Mhm.
I think we were talking a lot about sort of the rejection of the pressure to feel shame around certain things. And part of what he's doing is identifying all the kind of norms or expectations where like he should be feeling shame and then like demonstrating that he feels no shame.
Yeah.
And I think
Yeah.
it's really different from acting as though you don't care or that you're just sort of like immune to those kinds of critiques. Like
Yeah.
instead he's really trying to like lay those critiques out and then point
Yeah.
out the flaws in those critiques. And this goes back to the kind of like Twitter strategy and the kind of like
Mhm.
invitation of these kinds of criticisms that then he's sort of totally prepared to respond to. And yeah, there is, I think, I mean, to me, so much of the video is about this kind of like refusal to feel shame. It's like
Mhm.
it's so
Mhm.
celebratory and like so
Yeah.
joyous and feels so kind of like liberatory.
Yeah. I would agree. Yeah. It's just, yeah, especially, yeah, just the celebration of
Yeah.
it, you
Well,
know.
I mean, we were talking about this with like the depiction of hell too, where it's like we're supposed to be
Yeah,
scared of this place, but that's pretty good.
looks great, like, you know,
Are those the outfits we get? Like, it sounds
right, right.
great.
Yeah, no, absolutely. That, and there's also just like thinking about identity because it raises so many questions about identity about because he's all the characters, he's everything, he's even in that space, it's like a coliseum or something like
Yeah,
that.
yeah, it looks like a Roman
um
Colosseum.
yeah, there's also these statues in the back, and those are him too, like everything is
Yeah,
him. And so I think that's one thing that like a lot of the critics are missing. They're like, oh well, he literally
right.
wants to go dance with Satan.
Yeah,
It's ridiculous. I don't, it's ridiculous. Like I don't think that's in the video. What is in the video is that this idea of Satan is an idea,
right,
you know, and it's something that has been implanted into him against his will by a culture that
right,
was telling him through his entire childhood, that the devil is real, hell is real, and you're going there because of who you are, that it tied his identity to judgment and damnation and hellfire,
right.
and so what's being represented there is him having to deal with his own internalized
Yeah,
homophobia, that he's saying, I'm not going to feel this anymore. The stuff
yeah,
y'all had me feeling when I was 14 years old and I thought I had to hide forever and die with the secret and then go to hell, I
yeah,
guess, you know, he's saying, no, like I'm going to process that and integrate it into a celebration of myself,
right.
where I accept myself for whatever I am.
Yeah, totally. And I think, it's like in some ways he's just kind of like describing the experience of oppressed people where it's like you really do internalize a lot of
Yes,
self-hatred, a
yes.
lot of kind of like norms and expectations that you feel pressure to live up to. And then at some point you sort of have to decide like
Right.
who's gonna be in charge, like which of the voices inside you want to kind of live
Yeah.
to or sort of yeah, which identity you want to celebrate.
Yeah. And he's saying all of them,
Yeah,
like,
exactly.
yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
yeah.
And it's interesting, like, as you were speaking just now, and as we're talking about this, I'm reminded of one of my favorite quotes from from popular culture. It's the first episode of Star Trek: The Next Generation, and they are going to be judged by Q. Like, I don't know how much of a Star Trek watcher you are,
I have some
like,
very close friends who are very into Star Trek. I'm personally not.
especially like these days, like nobody, but they're going to be judged by this like omnipotent
Right.
figure, and they're stressed about it. They're like, oh my goodness, are we going to kind of pass muster? and Picard says, we're not doing that. Like we're not doing that second guess ourselves, this and that. And he says, if we're to be damned, let's be damned for who we truly are. And that is like the
Wow.
ethos of this video.
Totally, that's beautiful.
Right? It's like, you know what? If I'm gonna go to hell, at least let me go to hell for really living my life.
Yeah, like
You know? Like,
yeah.
yeah. Otherwise, what am I doing? Yeah.
Yeah, totally. And I think, we were talking about this kind of like broader, I think one thing that I really responded to just like watching Lil Nas X as like an artist and as like a representation of Gen Z is just this kind of like refusal. Again, I think like so much of his identity is like this kind of refusal to feel like he needs to conform to certain like rules or expectations or norms that sort of like serve the interests of people more powerful. And I think one thing that I really love about this video is this kind of statement of a sort of authenticity or integrity that's not about kind of like purity or like being a kind of artist that's just doesn't care what anyone thinks.
Right.
And like doing this like kind of like indie music that has this like particular sort of integrity. Like he's making he knows he's making a hit. Like he knows
Right. That's the point. He's trying to get that bag.
Yeah. Like I follow him on TikTok and he's been promoting the song for months. He had it in a commercial before it came out. Like there's a really savvy marketing strategy behind it. And he's constantly fielding these criticisms of being like a sellout and like not making good music. And he just does not give a shit. Like it's just so clear to like part of what he's like, that's part of his artistry is kind of like owning the ways in which we're so shaped by what's marketable and like what capitalism sort of commodifies. And again, it's like this kind of like refusal to feel shame about that and to instead just kind of like interrogate the critiques, like sort of like identify them, talk about them instead of pretending like you can kind of opt out of the system.
I mean, I think that it's so complicated, right? Because on the one hand, like I love indie music, like that's if you find me at a concert, it's probably a folk music concert, and stuff like that. I'll probably be wearing tie-dye, and that kind of thing. But there's definitely something to be said for the fact that like Black queer culture has been the absolute that's what American popular culture is. It has been for a long time.
Yeah.
When we think about some of the early people like Lil Richard, when we think about some of the earliest people like Lil Richard, people like Sister Rosetta Tharpe, who's also believed to have been queer. We think about like these architects, like these earliest kind of figures within the rock and roll tradition and so on. This comes out of a Black queer tradition, and in particular, a Black queer tradition of trying to figure out how do Black queer people fit into religious spaces.
Wow.
Right. That music comes out of this gospel tradition and so on. So there's something to be said for the fact of like, why should everybody make money? Except
like, why is this the first time we've seen two Black men kiss in a hip hop video? Like, this, and what you're pointing out is like, there's something that feels so new about this. But there's also something that feels just like very old. Like this is so much part of our popular culture. Like him wearing thigh-high boots. Like we've seen this a million times, but somehow it's like, it's
now
still
it's a problem.
radical. Yeah, exactly. Exactly.
Yeah, it's ridiculous. Yeah. So yeah, this has been a great conversation. Is there any last things that we want to make sure to get out there before we conclude?
I don't know. I also feel like this has been a great conversation. I feel like we touched on a lot.
we covered a lot of ground. I think for me it's just there's so many things that this video made me want to learn more about. One thing that we touched on a little bit in the reaction, but also just like the musical vernacular of the video. The fact that it's hip hop and flamenco, and flamenco is like this music of passion, and
Right.
the song is actually like very like beautifully musically complex in the way that I think that the audio itself is only 2 minutes and 15 seconds long.
Sure. Yeah. I mean, it's
And
like a product of like streaming TikTok.
right, yeah, right, totally,
Yeah.
But it's amazing how much
Right.
happens, musically.
Yeah.
And then there's all the stuff that's happening lyrically. I mean, the
Right.
lyrics are so rich.
Yeah.
But yeah.
Totally. I mean, I love too the like "Call Me by Your Name" reference,
Mhm.
like,
Yeah,
because the
right.
film was such a big deal a few years ago, and
Yeah,
the film is so just like incredibly romantic. But one of the
yeah,
criticisms, it was also like incredibly white.
yeah,
Just to
right.
see
Yeah,
like, yeah, this black artist like repurpose like so much of that language for this song
yeah,
that again is like partly like very kind of like lustful and then partly
right.
also just like
Yeah,
really romantic, and there's this kind of innocence to it. Yeah, I
yeah.
thought it was beautiful.
Yeah, it's just there's so much there to explore. It's super fun and it's hot. The
Yeah,
song
totally,
is
totally. And
amazing.
it's
It's
yeah, it's
together, like
fun to see, like, after the kind of success of Old Town Road, it's fun to see him do
Mhm,
something that feels really different, but also in some ways
mhm,
really similar. Like, I think,
mhm.
so much of the conversation around Old Town Road was like this sort of like, can it be counted as country music? Like,
Right.
kind of like uproar about whether like this white genre could like accommodate hip hop
Yes.
music, and to
Yeah.
see him like pushing the boundaries of genre in this way that felt very political, and then
Mhm.
to see again this song that's again pushing the
Yeah.
kind of boundaries of genre again in ways that feel super political. It's just like
Yeah.
it's so cool to watch him do that.
Yeah, and the whole like, is this really country music? Which is something that, the group Gangsta Grass?
No.
So they mix hip hop with bluegrass, and they've been doing it for
Cool.
yeah, they've been at it for a while, like
Right.
long before Lil Nas X came on the scene. And there was a show on FX years ago called Justified, and the theme song was by Gangsta Grass. And
Oh,
and so that was their whole thing, like mixing together, hip hop and bluegrass, but also like with Beyonce
yeah.
getting kind of screwed.
Totally. It's a great country song.
It is an amazing like, that
Yeah.
song, the wackiest thing about it is that song is probably, like, one of the most artistically just, like, amazing things that she's recorded.
Right.
And it's absolutely one of the most interesting country songs that
Yeah.
I've heard in, like, quite some while. It's beautiful, and for the awards to say, "Oh, well, this isn't really country music." Well, what's not country?
Yeah.
The thing
Yeah.
is, it's
Yeah.
much more straight ahead,
Yeah.
like just old school country than like half the stuff that gets played on country
Right.
music radio, which I love country music, and I don't like a lot of this kind of
Yeah.
stuff that's not even country. It's
Yeah,
just like
it's just
bad
like
pop
pop.
music.
Yeah, exactly.
Country. Yeah.
No, I'm like a huge Taylor Swift fan, which is like
Right.
very
Yeah.
embarrassed, but I'm like it's like a big part of who I am. But I
Mhm.
think about this all the time with her. Like for so long, she got to be counted as a country artist.
Mhm.
She was clearly just making pop music, and then you have Beyonce making just like what feels
Um,
like such a classic
very like
song, and like
yeah.
can't get played on the radio. And then I was thinking about Taylor Swift too, like next to this video, because I love Taylor Swift, but one of the things that she represents to me is just like she's such a sort of like tragic millennial where she's kind of like obsessed with like validation from the people that are sort of in power that are never going to like
Mhm.
fully accept her. And so, I loved her last two albums, but her last two albums were very much putting on this face of like indie folk, like authentic, real
Interesting,
music. And
yeah.
like if, for someone who's like following her career a lot, it feels like very deliberately part of her strategy to like win another Grammy, and it totally
Mhm.
worked, and the critics loved it. But to see Lil Nas X go in like a totally different direction, where he's like not in any way trying to get validation from like the
Right.
people in power or like what music critics like,
Yeah.
and just knowing that his audience, like the sort of
It's
Gen Z
gonna
audience,
ride with them, yeah.
exactly, like he knows how to sell himself on
Yeah.
TikTok, on Twitter, and yeah, that's what's going to be successful and feel, I think, like authentic to him.
Yeah, yeah. This has been such a great conversation. Yay! Thank you so much for joining me, and I'm so glad we could do
honor.
Philosophers React to.
I know. I want to see more of this series. This is so fun.
Right? Yeah, exactly. I'm like, this is a great start.
Totally.
Well, awesome. I think that's a wrap. And thanks so much for doing this with me.
Yeah, thank you so much for asking. This is so fun.
Yay. All right.
All right, bye.